Hi you guys, so Juvias Place dropped their foundation and concealer, and you know I had to get on here and show you guys what it's really hitting for. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial. Let's get started. We're jumping right into it. I did some swatches on her jawline and let it dry down to see which color would match her the best, and the color that kind of dried down and disappeared the most is the color that we're going to go ahead and use. So the shade we're going to be using today is Tanzania, which is shade number 205. This is my second time filming using these products, so now I have a better idea of how to use them. So now I can present it better to you. So first I'm going to make sure that I seriously moisturize her skin. This foundation lives up to its matte finish. This foundation is very matte, so you do want to make sure that you really moisturize the skin, because, well, me personally, I don't like when the foundation looks like too matte. I still like a natural glow coming through the skin. That's like my look. So I really wanted to make sure that I heavily moisturize her skin, and then I'm gonna go ahead and prime it with an illuminating primer. The moisturizer and the primer will be listed down below, but it's something that I've used on my channel before. This is just ensuring that her skin is moisturized, suppled, and illuminated before we go in with this mattifying foundation. This will not change the formula of the foundation. The foundation will still be matte. I just prefer this technique when I'm using a very matte foundation. So you guys, this is the amount that I'm using, and I literally only use half of that. You don't even need that much. This is the least amount of foundation I've ever had to use in my entire life, okay? If you're not new to my channel, you know that I am a full coverage girl. I don't run from it. I don't hide from it. I love full coverage, and I don't mind piling on foundation. With this, the first mistake I made last time was using too much foundation. You need the very least, and you need to spread this foundation out. I'm using the Juvia's Place brush for this foundation, which I highly recommend. You see how little I put on that brush? You're going to smooth that foundation out. So I don't like to use my patting technique that I would usually do with this foundation, because we don't really need to cake this foundation on. We need to just smooth it onto the skin for it to work the best. And as you can see, it's like a nice velvet layer. This foundation definitely has like a velvet matte finish, so it looks very velvety. But I would recommend you smoothing that on the skin, sis. Unless you're using a beauty blender, then of course you would press the foundation in with the beauty blender. And the beauty blender is picking up some product, so it won't go on as heavy as if you were using a brush. And just a sidebar, we are going to ignore her brows on this video. I ran out of my brow pencil because this is prom season. This weekend was fully booked, and I just been running out of products. So you guys don't even want to know what I did her eyebrows with. Don't even freaking ask me. So we're gonna move on. If you're new to my channel, check out my other videos. I know how to slay a brow. Relaxes. It's just been one of those days. So now we're going to move on to concealer. I am going to mix these two concealers. So I'm going to be using my MAC NC50. This is the 24-hour wear concealer. And then I'm going to go in with the Juvia's concealer in the shade 10. Now, I did try these concealers out for a week on my prom client, so I do know how they work best. And I will say I prefer to mix them with something else, only because this foundation is a lot more lightweight than I'm used to. So we already said I'm a full coverage girl, so this concealer was just a little bit too lightweight for me. But the formula of the concealer and the formula of the foundation put together, because you know, the foundation is very full coverage, is very matte, and then we come in with this lightweight concealer that's a little bit moisturizing. It's on the creamy side, but it's not heavy, so it's a nice balance. Me, I like a lot of coverage underneath the eyes, which is why I just popped it directly underneath the eyes for like a more highlighted look. I do like the fact that Juvias has an extensive range of concealers with a lot of undertones. So they have yellows, neutrals, and pink undertone concealers. Of course, I use a very yellow undertone concealer for my client, but yeah, I'm going to be mixing these two and showing you how it works with the sponge. And I also tried the brush to see if the brush works with my technique, and the brush worked very well blending the concealer in. So I think I'm going to actually order a few more of these brushes. I really like the brush. Okay, so my client's eyes was watering, and I always tell people that my client's eyes never water, like teardrops never fall, because I tell them to sniffle. So that's what she was doing. So I'm just using my Real Techniques setting brush, and I'm using that to press the concealer in underneath the eyes. That's my favorite technique. And I will say, because the Juvia's concealer is very creamy, it did take a little bit longer to set, because this is my philosophy. Like, when a concealer is really creamy, you do want to take longer blending it, because they tend to crease more because they're so creamy, right? So you want to make sure that you really tap it into the skin, because you're going to be setting it essentially, kind of. This is a tip. This is $1 million tip. So as you're tapping it in, you're kind of setting the concealer underneath her eye as well, so you don't have to rely so much on the powder to set your under eye. So if you notice, her under eyes aren't as wet as they were before, because, sis, you've already begun in the stages to set it. How her skin is looking so far, it looks really, really good. So now I'm going in with my favorite setting powder. This is the Luscious by Lynn powder, and we're using Butternut Beige. And of course, I press the powder into her under her eye area first to set it, and then I'm gonna go back in with a little bit of extra powder to bake. I'm also gonna go around the sides of her mouth and nose, chin, nose, forehead, you know, the whole shebang. So now we're moving on to contour. Yes, I'm going to be using the Juvia's concealer in shade number 4, and I'm going to use that along her cheekbones and forehead. I'm going to take my Real Techniques Instapop cheek brush, and I'm going to use that to blend the contour in to her skin. And I'm going to take my foundation brush and clean up whatever it is that I need to clean up, so I get more of a clean, sharp effect. And by the way, there's no extra product on my brush. I'm using whatever was already there. Alright, so now we're gonna go in with, I'm using, actually, this is my favorite Juvias palette. I need to buy another one because it looks a hot mess. But I'm using the Juvias Saharan 2 palette, and I'm using that dark reddish brown. I'm gonna use that to set her contour. So what I'm doing is tapping the powder into the area where we contoured her skin, because we want to set that concealer. We don't want to move it, we just want to kind of set it where it is. So now I'm taking my Fenty Beauty bronzer in the shade Bajan Gyal, and I'm going to use that to just blur out the edges of that contour. Now I'm just taking the foundation brush and I'm pressing the powder into the skin. So what I'm going to do now is finish up the face, and then I'm going to come back in and tell you how I feel about this foundation, the concealer, all of that, alright? Alright, you guys, we are pretty much done with this look. Now, I will say I am a complete foundation and concealer snob. But with that being said, I was very excited to try these new products out. The first few times that I used them, I didn't know the right way to use them. But once I figured it out, I was able to get a flawless, beautiful finish. And I cannot wait to continue using these products and seeing like the best ways to use them, especially on myself. And I want to see how it holds up in this summer heat, because this foundation is so full coverage and you need the least amount. That's what's really getting me, that you don't need a lot. So this looks so good, and I just really want to stress the fact that sometimes you might get a new foundation and you might try it like with your regular routine and it might not work out. Sometimes you have to figure out how to use it best, because formulas are different. But if you bought this foundation, let me know how you're liking it so far. If you are going to get it, let me know. I don't have a coupon code, but I will link a coupon code down below. All of the products that I used will be listed down below, including the brushes. So make sure you check the description. And I will check you guys out in the next video. I love you guys. Bye.